Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I'll be doing an artist overview of the artist Max Huffman. I was first introduced to Max's work with the book I don't actually have here. I took it to work for students to look at. But that book had come to me I think it was the first Partners and Sons grab bag I did, where I just had Partners and Sons in Philadelphia, an awesome shop that deals in indie comics, send me $100 worth of comics, and they sent me this long one. I don't remember what it was called, but I know it was by Max Huffman. I remember the style. I remember really liking the art, but thinking that the story was kind of strange. So that's why I took it to work. The stuff where I'm not like super engaged with it that I get in those kind of grab bag things, as long as there's nothing crude in them that's going to get me in trouble, I'll take them to work so students have things to flip through. But I remember being really intrigued by the art and thinking, man, if this artist worked in color, or if I liked the story better, I'd really like this. And then doing a similar kind of grab bag situation, but this one not tailored to me like the Partners and Son one was. I got this in the Desert Island Mystery Mail. This came along with the Yokoyama Yuichi's Baby Boom, were the two things I got. And this I was like really, really enjoying the art in here. The stories were funny and there were color in here. And so when I got this, I was like, who is this Max Huffman artist? This looks familiar. I went and looked him up on Instagram. I was like, yeah, that was that other book that I got. I was right. I do really like it in color. And I do like some of his writing better in this, like there's a lot of little strips like this. So I immediately said, okay, I was right. I do like this guy. I want to check out everything else he does. And just went and ordered whatever I could get off of his site. So I think this is pretty complete. There's a couple things that were out of print. The first thing here that we're going to look at is Hyper Mutt. This is just like a little copy shop zine, which is cool. So it's in black and whatever color it's printed on. But you can see Huffman's just got this really interesting cartooning style that I'm immediately drawn to. A lot of abstraction going on. But this series is about this object here, which is the Hyper Mutt, which is a one dog that's made out of all dogs. And again, you can see that just super creative cartooning and abstraction there. Here's a sticker that came with everything. Here's Hyper Mutt number 2. I really like the opening sequence on this, where you're watching a building get demolished, just the blowing up, and then this new building being opened up behind, and then just some of this hyper dog imagery is really cool. These always go onto the back cover, which is really cool. I look at this and I think a lot like this must have been an influence on Bhanu Pratap, or somebody who influenced Max Huffman is also influencing Bhanu Pratap. Or Bhanu's work really, when I came across Dear Mothers and other things, really struck me as like it came out of nowhere. I didn't know where the hell he got any kind of cues for his style from, and this is one of the first things I've seen. Okay, there's some other people doing it, and the more I'm being exposed, the more I'm kind of seeing. There's actually, I think it's in number 4, something that gave me a clue on where some of this might be coming from. I really enjoy at the beginning of Hyper Mutt number 3, there's a letter here from American Extortion Solutions. We make your problem go away. Dear Miss Vignette, no demands, best. And then it's like, this is a boilerplate letter, I'm afraid. I just thought that was really, really funny. So that's what I'm saying is in these, there's more moments in the writing that I really enjoy. The stories are all very, very strange. They're kind of as strange and like fractured as the art in a way. I mean, they hold together and they make sense, but it's like imagine the brain that produces this art. It's like that kind of tweak on storytelling as well. It's like a strange kind of pop culture postmodern mashup. And then Hyper Mutt number 4 is actually titled Disruptor, which is interesting because it continues the story, but it kind of introduces some new characters and starts out here on a beach with this dude. I really like this idea that this person's bed is on a beach. I think that's no, it's not metaphorical. That's accurate. He's going through the jungle to find her. So it's kind of I think it's called Disruptor because it takes a swerve from the initial story. And then here is where I got the first look at like a couple things that I could see being an influence for Max Huffman, and then maybe through Max Huffman into Bhanu. I don't know if this is where Bhanu got it, but like this stuff to me looks quite a bit like Bhanu's work. And then when I look at a drawing like this, I see a lot of Kevin O'Neill mixed with Tim Hensley and the Wally Groipus stuff he does. While I'm looking at Max Huffman's work, I keep coming back to Hensley. a lot in my mind. But this was like the other component that was missing from that, which is the Kevin O'Neill, like the strange distortions in the bodies. And I think you mix kind of those two aesthetics together, plus some interest in just like abstract art and cartooning and obviously modern art and design in general. And I think you're getting like the Max Huffman look. And then I think some of that's going into this, like, where in the hell this alien signal that I thought was Banu's work. This collection here, a lot of these are collections of short works, cover not final. This is presented as a series of one-off crime stories, but by the end of the book, it's kind of fun because there's a larger story involving this character here that plays out throughout the whole series. And I think if I went back and read it a couple more times, I'd be able to like piece together the puzzle. And Max Huffman does a real good job. This was put out by Ad House Books, by the way. I think the rest of them are self-released, but does a real good job of kind of fooling you into thinking that this is a collection of unrelated stories by constantly switching styles. So you get this first story here, that's just like black with a yellow and a red. Then this is a second story here that's like a world where people aren't allowed to play music, and so this person is just doing sound art. And I really like the idea of this sound performance artist, and they're asking them to squirt mace out on stage to squirt them in the eyes. And that's what I'm talking about the stories are kind of this endless like idea a panel or idea a page type of thing where like Max's brain seems to be just so off at like a 83-degree angle from everything else. It's just these strange things. And so that can make the stories a hard to get a hang on because they're constantly shifting, but it makes them a lot of fun too. Then you get this switch to just like this black and yellow story about a cop, but you'll see this criminal just shows up in a lot of them. And then there's this one that's done to look like it's on old newsprint paper, so it's been yellowed a little bit. So you could see that Max is really interested in kind of like different production techniques and mimicking looks of old comics. Really, really enjoy his color palette, picking from such a limited palette. Those kind of old comic colors, whatever that palette was, seems to be what he's picking from, and just doing extraordinary things with it. I mean, as I'm flipping through, just showing the different styles and pretty much just showing off the art. I think, another thing that occurs to me is like Trencher. This has the strangeness of Trencher to it, both in the kind of the conception of some of the characters and in the way some of the art works, just the way the colors are pieced off and stuff, and the wild colors. And then Huffman, obviously, as a great cartoonist, will do a lot of like little one-off New Yorker type cartoons as well, and you can just really see his amazing drawing chops in there. I'm sure that there's a whole history of cartoonists that these type of cartoonists that I'm not very familiar with, that a lot of his influence is coming from as well. And then I had to crack up in the back that with this self-portrait here, the artist portrait, but that he also wrote, this is his first comic with a barcode. Like, he's so excited about that. And it's exciting. It's cool. Like, you've been doing your little zines, and now, like, Ad House. Ad House is a great company. I'm sad that they're closing down. Then the next little piece here, this is another issue 1. This is called Wisnant. I never figured out how to pronounce it, but this is where I see the Tim Hensley kind of character show up. This looks very much like that Wally Gropius type of surreal abstraction applied to comics type of thing. Just a little short. The only thing that worries me about Max Huffman as a creator is I've got 4 issues of this Hyperdog, and it doesn't say anything about when it was made. And that says to be continued. And then this piece here, this is all short stories. So this is finished, and this is 2021. This looks like a self-published deal, and it says to be continued. But again, I have no sense of the date on here. And this Plaguers International has the sense that it's not finished. So there's a lot of things being started here, and that's, given that they're all not in like an anthology format, like 8-Ball or something like that, where you're gonna be like, oh, I can look forward. He's doing like 10 different things, but they're cycling. Here, I'm kind of worried, and I get the sense maybe that like he's just done with Hyper Mutt and has moved on to this. I don't know. Maybe there's an issue 2 of Wisnant coming and an issue 5 of Hyper Mutt. And this is issue number 3 of Funky Dianetics, which I quite enjoyed, but I couldn't get a hold of the first 2 of these. And same thing with the Plaguers International. It seems like he's all over. So I don't know. Maybe they're all just cycling at once, which is fine. But as a load of comics, it's just a little bit like, I'll keep buying what comes out, but I would sure like, a finish to some of these stories. And that same like panel type of vibe comes across in the way these projects work. It's just this is someone who's bursting with ideas and not trying out a lot of different things stylistically, but wants to go in a lot of directions narratively. This collection is a collection of these more like New Yorker cartoon things, and then these little strips called I'm Good, and the rabbit in the strips apparently is named I'm Good. I'm supposing that if I would have got Funky Dianetics 1 and 2, I would have been more introduced to the characters. It's some kind of ongoing strip, weekly strip in a local newspaper or something. I don't know. It's not explained. Here. Joking Comics by Matt Huffman, drawn from November 2019 to September 2021, printed and published by Clown Kisses Press. So it doesn't say where it was previously published, but I get the sense that it's for some kind of local newspaper, weekly paper, or something like that. I really like, and this is one of the things I really like about these handmade books, is people can actually like tip things in, and there's just more interesting production things people can do when they're in control of the process the whole way through. So this is really cool. I'm assuming it's printed on this dark paper, and then you print the black over it, having this little insert. It's just a lot of fun. I like that. There's Chrissy Goofs. We've got like the Sopranos logo here, Tintin in the mirror, and just a business park. So there's a couple different strips that he seems to go through. I really quite like this one panel here. It has a quote that just says, "Life's messy, be the mop." I like that attitude on life, like don't like worry about everyone else is doing. Just worry about cleaning up. Try and keep things clean if you can. Don't get too depressed. And then I really, really, really like this one too. This is such like an insider joke, but dear Lord, I know I'm not perfect. You've seen I crank my kerning much too tight. He's cranked the kerning much too tight. So that's just like a little funny joke. And then we got like a 2-color bit here with the red and some play with diffusion dither, and it looks like spot colors on the cover as well. So that's more of that just production play that I'm seeing throughout these books, which is always cool as well. And then Plaguers International. This is 2018, so this is actually an earlier one, but this is in color, and I really, really like a lot of the art in this book. So I just, Max Huffman's a really, really powerful artist in black and white most of the time. That first thing I saw was a little off, but this stuff all looks really good in black and white. But man, I just really, really like when he works in color. I think that's when it turns into, instead of just cartooning, it takes on like that modern art aesthetic. There's something more about it when it gets into color, and you can just see some of these pages like this with these strange compositions, so much abstraction going on in them, and the color really holds them down and makes sense of them. But it's just like a beautiful page as well. Here's another, you can see if this was in black and white it would be cool, but in color it starts to feel like art. It takes on that abstract art kind of vibe. This reminds me of Michael DeForge a little bit, so maybe that's another influence. I don't know. Michael DeForge is all over the place. And then here's another just really great set of 2 pages, really great set of colors. Just this little abstract comic about this glass getting dropped off this really fancy building up on the top there. But this story like went up to here and says next lunch, and then maybe this is lunch. I'm not sure if that's the next and this story is over, but it felt like this story was going somewhere too. Like we have the big cliffhanger review right here where a new character gets introduced. So that's my only concern about like recommending Max Huffman stuff, is like I just don't know any of it's going to be completed. I mean, he's obviously very prolific and working kind of at a rapid pace and probably working on multiple things at once. So I don't know. I just found out about him. I haven't followed him. Maybe other people who've followed his career a little more closely can tell me. But that's really the only thing that would make me hesitate about recommending any of this is like I don't know if any of it's going to get finished. But I sure hope so, because it's amazing. And whether it gets finished or not, I'm kind of along for the ride. Like I'm just learning things, getting ideas, enjoying the art. Like I said, the stories are just kind of fun all over the place. They're not super serious, but I really enjoy what's going on with with Max Huffman in general, and someone that I'll be watching closely, and someone that I would really like to see some kind of more large collection. I don't know how this kind of stuff would be organized into a collection, but it just feels, and this character, some of the characters show up. It feels like there's some bigger picture maybe being painted, and that's what the skipping around is about. I'm not sure. I'm just very curious about this artist. So hopefully you can go support Max Huffman and get some of his books. Definitely really recommend the ones in color. These are all beautiful. The most recent one is the Sunka Dink, so that would be a good place to start because that just came out, so you should still be able to get a hold of it pretty easy. But I got all this stuff off Max's site, no problem. Came to me in a couple days, shipped it to me right quick, and gave me a free sticker, so appreciate it, Max. Thank you. If you enjoy what we're doing here on the channel and want to support us, there's two ways to do that. The best way is through our Patreon. We have a couple different tiers of engagement, different content that goes up on there, exclusive content that we're putting up on there. So if you support us there, we really appreciate it. The money we get from there goes back into buying the books we review, so we try and put that back into other creators' pockets and just get ourselves some books from it. And the best way, though, to support what we're doing here is to support what Sean's doing with Living the Line Publishing. So we'll go ahead and take a look at a couple of the options of things you could get from Living the Line now. Plaza by Yokoyama Yuichi. This is translated by Ryan Holmberg and is very large for a manga. So that's a really cool feature of this book, this standard manga size. And this is just a 200 some odd page representation of what Yokoyama Yuichi thinks of the Carnival Parade, and he's just made this like relentlessly loud and rhythmic book that pushes all kinds of amazing boundaries of what comics and manga are, and we could not recommend this book more. Thanks for following along. Take it away, Jack.
You want to see all these books? Smash that subscribe button and the like button and the bell, and then you get them.